So this is a video to go with our review for Digital Imaging 1. I'm going to go through this very quickly. The video is limited to 15 minutes, so hopefully we can get through all the major parts, if not everything. 5 stages of workflow: shoot, upload and renumber, write a backup, format your memory cards, and do selections. That's our very simplified workflow to manage our work. But as time goes on, a more sophisticated workflow, including editing of your images, should be spoken about and thought about. Image size and resolution. PPI stands for pixels per inch, DPI dots per inch. In the days of print, designers would very much think in terms of pixels per inch, and that would be their, or dots per inch, excuse me, and that would be their measure of the quality of an image. But really the quality of an image is not just the resolution, it's the size, the dimensions of the image as well. And the end measure of the quality is going to be the size of the file, 103.4 megabytes when this image is open on the desktop, and that's a real measure of the quality of the image. Image rotation, we've used 3 tools to look at this. One has been the crop tool that will allow us to rotate an image, and as it does it, it cuts in at the corners, so we don't have to worry about cleaning up an image after it's been cropped. The other tool we looked at was the image rotation tool and the arbitrary setting that allows us to rotate any amount that we want, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. And this leaves these triangles here that then have to be cropped out or filled in some way. And there are other tools that we can use to fill them in. But the bottom line, they've got to be taken care of. Here I've cropped, and just using the marquee tool, as I crop that image, you can see it's cut back in there. Let's just go back on where we were with those things that we've just done. Image brightness and contrast, or contrast and brightness. Brightness, how light or dark an image is. Contrast, this is the tricky definition, the rate of change between highlight and shadow details. Further definition, a high contrast image or a hard image, you could put hard in brackets, is an image where the highlights are bright, the shadows are dark, and the rate of change between highlight and shadow is rapid. A low contrast image or soft image, an image where there are no bright highlights, there are no really dark shadow areas, and the rate of change is very shallow. A low contrast image, you could put in brackets, is a soft image. Use of curves in Photoshop, and so once we're in the tool, if we are just doing a global adjustment to the whole image, first of all, how to get to the tool, image adjustments and curves, and the global adjustment affects the entire image rather than a selected part of the image. The light needs to be checked here and not pigment, and the correct use of the tool, 1, 2, 3, we're going to adjust the brightness by moving the graph up or down, so we make it a little bit brighter. Then we adjust the shadow areas, again straight up or down. As we come down, you can see a little bit in that photograph there, the image contrast increasing, and then the highlight end here, again up or down. This is very much a start point for the use of the tool, but that's what we want to start with. And again, I'm going to undo that adjustment that I've just made there to increase the contrast and the brightness of the image. Free transform tool. Well, we thought about this when we did our composite image assignment where we were combining images together. So if I was going to combine this image on the background image there, I can drag it across. They're exactly the same size, but if I go to edit, free transform down here, I'm going to check the chain link here. First of all, that locks in the aspect ratio. That allows me to change the size of the image. I can reposition it, and I can also rotate it on the background there. The composite image assignment, remember we used the free transform tool when we were doing that assignment, but basically an image made up of multiple other images, and just think of the David Hockney image that we did for that particular assignment. Layers in Photoshop, an image made from multiple layers, and incredibly powerful tool. And as we start looking at the design project process, we can see how layers are built as we do that. The project File, new was our basic start point. This page is going to come up where we create a new document, and we're going to do the resolution 300 ppi at the output size. Output size is standard letter paper, 8.5 by 11 inches, 300 ppi, RGB color, 8-bit, and a white background. I hit OK to create that document. The rulers are already switched on. I need the rulers to be switched on. If I go to View and Rulers, I can turn them on or off, but I need them on. If they're not already visible, they need to be switched back on. And as I do that, if I'm on the Move tool here, I can click and drag a center line out as a guideline for the center of my image. Next, I'm going to have a photograph that I want to pull onto that background. So let's see if I can find an image that will work. Here we go. And I want to resize that image first of all. At the moment, this picture is going to be bigger than it needs to be. The width of that paper, the background, is 8 inches. And so I'm going to make sure my resolution is the same, 300. And I'm going to change that so it's a little bit smaller than the page size, but it allows me then to know where I am as I drag that image across. I'm going to add a stroke. So first of all, rectangular marquee tool. So I've got marching ants around my image, edit and stroke. And the background color I'm just going to have as black. If I've got web only colors set, I've got these blocks of color, which are a lot easier to use. And I'm going to have the width at 5 and the location on the inside and hit OK. So as you're preparing for the test, make sure you know the route to get to these various tools. That was edit and stroke down here, and it's not visible anymore because I don't have my marching ants set that I did by the marquee tool. To get the image onto the background, I'm going to drag it off the toolbar, use the Move tool. I'm holding my Shift key down as I click and drag and let go, and it's centered exactly. Next, I'm going to add a drop shadow. So if I go to my layers palette, right at the bottom here, hit FX. It's the bottom one there, but you can't see it. But as I click on that, I get this box appear. My default for a drop shadow, 75% opacity, 120 angle, and for the distance spread and size, 15 pixels each spread set for that. And I can see a preview of what the drop shadow is going to look like down here. Hit OK, and I've got a drop shadow here. Next, I'm going to add text, and so I hit the text tool, and I want the horizontal type tool, and I'm going to add that. I'm going to click right on my center line there, and as I've got my type centered, the text centered, as I type, it's going to come out from both directions there. So working portfolio was the name that we used. I could change the font for that and change the size of the font to get it close to where I want it to be, and use my Move tools to get it pretty much where I want it to be. The next block of copy was with a name and the name of the school. And look at that, way too big. So we're going to change the font to Arial. And I'll change the size of that down to 18. So that's a lot more manageable. And for the design project, we added a telephone number and a contact number as well. I want to go very rapidly on this so I can go on to the other things. Once we've finished the design, we were saving it as both a JPEG and a PSD. JPEG flattens the image. The PSD preserves all of the layers. We were resizing the type here, and actually it would help if I got rid of that in there as well. Okay, so that was basically our design project. I'm limited on time, so I'm going to race on through this. We can change the background color of an image. Let's come back onto Photoshop for this, and see the background here. If I wanted to change that color, I can go to that background layer and go to the color picker, select a color that I want to change it to. That's going to look awful, but if I use my paint bucket tool, I click on that back layer and it will change the color to what I've already set. I really don't like that color, so let's just undo that. But it's the technique that we just need to learn. Benefit and use of a JPEG. Well, make sure you know what the JPEG stands for, Joint Photographic Expert Group. It's a compressed file. It's a smaller file size. The benefit of PSD, Photoshop document, it preserves all of the layers within an image, and it's a high quality format. Benefit of the history of a TIFF file, tagged image file format, developed in the early days of digital photography when camera manufacturers had multiple formats, but not all software programs for designers would actually read those images. So the standard that was created was a TIFF file, high quality image, preserves all the layers, still used today, but it was we could use that on multiple different softwares and platforms. Dodge and burn tool in traditional and digital photography. It allows us to make an adjustment, selective adjustment to just one part of an image. So the tools here, if I dodge a part of an image, I'm going to make it lighter. If I burn a part of an image, it's going to make it darker, and it dates back to in a darkroom where you would do exactly the same technique. If you were making a photographic print, you could make parts of the image lighter or darker. Lasso and feathering technique, a lot more control because it allows us to select just an area. And if I wanted to lighten the rock here, I'm going to draw my marching ants with the lasso tool here, well within the edge here. I've set my pixels feathering to 120. So there's 60 pixels in this direction, 60 pixels in this direction, and that will be the gradient. This is quite a large file, so that gradient is not going to be ideal. But if I use another tool, you can see I've got a softer edge there. If I want to do that again, if I increase the pixel count to something like 300, draw my marching ants again well within the edge of the rock so that I don't end up with a glow around the rock, which I would have if I was right close to the edge of the rock. And now I've got a nice feathered edge that I can make the adjustment that I want to make on that. Layer masks, and really short on time now. Same technique with all of the layer mask images, and I need another image to work with on this. I'm going to go layer, duplicate layer, yes. I'm going to make the top layer, which I'm actually working on now, black and white. It could be that we added the Gaussian blur filter, and we can use this technique to make a lot of different adjustments. I add a layer mask and a brush, and I can adjust the brush size using my bracket keys. And now as I brush away part of the top layer, it reveals the color of the image underneath. Right, so layer mask, spot color, Gaussian blur, all done with a layer mask. Navigator tool in Photoshop. Navigator allows us to see 100% of the pixels within an image. Let's turn that top layer off for this. So we've got the full color image again. Navigator tool, if I set it to 100% instead of 12.5, I can now see all of the pixels within that image, and my little red box will allow me to scroll through, and I can use this to retouch and check that the entirety of an image is sharp and correct. Adjustment layers, I haven't got time to explain that right now in this video. I think these other things we've already covered. I'm getting real close to the end here. Make sure you know how to draw the histograms for each of these images. Go back to your notes, refer on that. Sharpening, it kind of twists those pixels, and our go-to is on the filter here, filter, sharpen, and unsharp mask with the settings set to 80 to and 2.